Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. Charles Dickens, the master storyteller, begins his book A Tale of Two Cities, a novel set in the years leading up to the French Revolution, which was one of the most grotesque events in human history, but that's just my opinion, with the lines most people know immediately. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. Apart from the urgent need for a full stop or a period in that paragraph, those lines could have been written about almost any period in history, although today it would be hard to describe Western Europe as enjoying the epoch of belief. Foolishness, darkness, and incredulity are certainly more accurate descriptions of these hard times. However, as St. Augustine once wrote, and pause for a second and think when he was writing, the first half of the 5th century, with the Roman Empire collapsing and civilization seemingly coming to an end, Augustine wrote in one of his sermons, and I'll quote him in full, "You find men complaining about the times they live in, saying that the times of our parents were good." He goes on, "What if they should be taken back to the times of their parents and should then complain? The past times that you think were good are good because they're not yours here and now." Apart from being rather amusing, he goes on to say, "I'm surprised that you should reckon Adam to have had good times." These words of St. Augustine are wise. We humans seem to have an ingrained tendency to see our times as the worst of times and decades before as the best of times. It's true that there are particular challenges in every generation, and certain times in world history are indeed times of greater or lesser darkness, winter rather than spring. Think of those who suffered in the last century the horrors of communism, or in our days our persecuted brethren in so many countries, including Afghanistan. It's quite possible, and I think it's quite likely, that with the advent of artificial intelligence, government surveillance, and all the other attributes of the total control society, hard times for believers are ahead. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you. Let's be honest, we don't like to be reminded of that too often. All of us prefer comfort to hardship and tranquility to terror. Yet, all times are not abandoned by God, and we are not abandoned by God, no matter if it is an epoch of belief or of incredulity, a time of light or of darkness. We're called to have a ruthless glance and a clear head, to see with clarity what surrounds us, and to know in whom is our salvation. Many years ago I read a few words of the Spanish philosopher José Ortega y Gasset. Although an atheist and no friend of the church, I found that his words could be interpreted with the eyes of faith and found them very profound. He wrote of the person with the clear head as someone who instinctively, as do the shipwrecked, looks around for something to which to cling, and that tragic, ruthless glance, absolutely sincere, because it is a question of his salvation, will cause him to bring order into the chaos of his life. Christ is the salvation for the shipwrecked. Clinging to him will keep us afloat in a shipwrecked world. The order he brings is what gives the martyr the ability to lay down his life, the sorrowful to find hope, and the grieving to find peace. In all times, the only hope and salvation for the Christian is to cling to him who alone brings salvation, life, and resurrection. Brethren, rejoice, be perfected, be comforted, be of the same mind, be at peace, and the God of peace and love will be with you all.